Good evening, everyone. This is Arnav from PyCode. Today, I'll be going over class 11's chapter functions. Now, this is a very important chapter, and I would request all of you to listen very carefully. Okay, let's start with the basics. What is a function? A function can simply be defined as a group of statements that is executed when it's called from some point of the program. It's basically just a divide and conquer approach. That's one way of looking at it. Now there are various type of functions. One is the built-in functions, second are called modules, third are the user-defined functions. Firstly, the built-in function. These are predefined functions in Python and are used when there is a need by simply calling them. For example, we have the integer function, the float function, the string function, the min function, the max function. The string value, the minimum value, maximum value, float value, or the decimal value, or the integer value. Second are called modules. Modules can be understood as like a container, but these containers are just filled of functions, variables, and constants in a separate file which can be reused. There are various ways to import a module. The two ways which are very common are the import statement and the from statement. The import module and the import stored statement is used to import the entire module. So the syntax will be import space module name. Let's say import maths. This is the module name. This is the import predefined function. Now the import statement, so from can be used as to import all the functions or the selected ones. So the syntax for this will be from module name import function name. So for example, from random import random. So this is the module name, this is the function name. Now thirdly, we have the user defined functions. Functions are a set of statements that perform specific tasks. Syntax of user defined functions are def function name. Here inside the bracket we call something a list of parameters which we can write down. Here is actually a code. I'm sorry, but there should be a colon here as well, and the statements are mentioned here, and def is actually a keyword. So this is an example of a user defined function where we take the sum, and this x comma y is actually the parameter, variables passed as basically the parameter, and we are adding the two numbers, taking the difference and returning the value. Now we've called another function called main where we've taken two values of x and y, and we're just printing the sum and difference. Now what are parameters and arguments in functions? I just went over them earlier. So a parameter is the value which is provided at the time of the function definition. So let's say we have a def sum of p comma q which is passed as a parameter, then we add p plus q and the difference we subtract. So this is the parameter which is also called the formal parameter or the formal argument. Next are the arguments. These are simply put the values which we pass in while defining while calling a function. So let's say ab equal to sum x comma y. So x comma y here act as arguments since these are the values which are being passed while we're calling the function. Now parameters are also called formal parameters or formal arguments. Now there are different type of arguments supported by Python. Positional argument, default argument, keyword argument, and variable length argument. So the positional arguments are passed to a function in correct positional order. So let's say we first we take a function called subtract and we print their difference, and then this basically takes in place in a position, the same position or the same order in which the function is being called. When a function is called is made without arguments, the function has default values for it. So this is called a default argument where there is no argument. So it just prints. So note that there can be a parameter here, but as you can see here in the function call, there is no argument being passed. So it has default values for it. Now this is another example. Now what is a keyword argument? If a function contains many arguments and we wish to specify some among them, then the values for such parameters can be provided by using the name. So let's say we have defined read message, name comma message, then we're simply printing that and we're calling the function. Now this basically means that when we want to specify some of the arguments, then that is also valid and we can provide their names. This is another example. Now what is a variable length argument? Now we know that there can be situations where we need to pass a lot of arguments to a function, not just two, three, four, five, or as many can you can name them. We need some where we can pass as many as we want. So Python simply provides us a way to pass these number of arguments, and such arguments are called the variable length arguments. Variable length arguments are defined with a star symbol, star quark. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but this is used for variable length arguments. So for example, def sums star n total is equal to 0. For I and n total plus equal to I, and we're simply printing the sum. So this takes as many arguments as you want and it just prints the sum. Now we have another method of passing an array or a list to a function. Arrays are simply the list that contains mixed data type and can be passed as an argument to a function. So let's say we want the arithmetic mean of a list. So we define the list, we take the length of the list, the sum is taken as 0, and for every character in the list, sum plus equals to I, and we return that sum. That is one way of taking the sum of the list. Now, a very important topic from CBSE board point of view, a lot of questions, previous year questions have been asked from this topic. Now, what is the scope of variables? Listen very carefully. Scope basically means access of the variables or constants in the program, the part where they can be accessed. So there is two type of scopes in a variable. One is the global scope and the second is the local scope. Now, as the name suggests, local variables are accessed throughout the program. Therefore, their scope is global. They can be accessed outside the function, inside the function, wherever in the program. So this is one example where we take uh, this one where we basically take m equal to 100 and we just put it as global m. So now the value of m will remain constant inside the function, outside the function, and it will always be 100. While in a local variable, the scope is actually local, so it can be only accessed inside the function and not outside it. So this is one example of the local variable as well, where you can only access this part inside. You can't access x and y outside. Now, what is recursion? A recursive function is a function that calls itself until a base condition is true, and the execution stops. Now, while false, recursion in computer science is a method of solving a problem where the solution depends on solutions to smaller instances of the same problem. Most computer programming languages support recursion by allowing a function to call itself from within its code. What are some of the advantages of recursion? Now, a recursive function makes the code look clean and elegant. A complex task can be broken down into simpler subproblems using recursion. The sequence generation is also easier with recursion than using some nested iteration. Now, what are the some disadvantages of recursion? Sometimes the logic behind recursion is hard to follow through. Recursive calls are expensive and also inefficient, as we know that they take up a lot of memory and time. Recursive functions are hard to debug. Let's take an example for a recursive program. The Fibonacci series is printed using the recursive function, where we define a function called fib, and if that number double equals 0, then we return 0. Else that number double equals 1, then we return 1. Else we return Fibonacci's n minus 1 plus n minus 2 number. This is one practice test which you can take where we just have to print the output of the below program. We take def print max a comma b. If a is greater than b, then we print a is maximum. Else it's equal, else b is maximum. Now we have to check for 3 comma 4. Let me give you 5 seconds and try answering the question on your own. Okay, so what basically this does is it checks between 3 and 4. Now we know since 4 is greater than 3, so it will just print 4 is maximum. Now we have to find the output of this question. We have been given a function and we have to print x, then x equal to 2, then we print x, the function again. So let me give you 5 seconds, pause the video and try it on your own. Okay, so the output of the given program will be firstly def func x, so we just have to print x, x is, then x is taken as the local variable here. So x equal 2 is the local variable here. So the changed local x is basically 2, then func of x, then print x is now. So what this basically does is that we have to choose between 50 and 2. Now, since we know that 2 is local to this and 50 has been written outside, so basically x is now just 50. In the first one it was 50, next it was 2, next it was 50. So this is local to the function. This is outside the function, therefore its value doesn't get changed. Okay, now we have to tell the output of this program. Def func ABC, and we have to print A, B and C. Try solving this on your own. Moving on to another example. Over here, if x is greater than y, then we are returning x, else they're equal, else we return y. So we have to print the maximum of 2 comma 3. So what we basically will do is that we just print, since 3 is greater than 2, then we just print 3, which is option B. Now we have to tell one of the features of docstring. You can try doing this on your own. Thank you everyone. I hope you enjoyed and understood the video. Pause and watch this entire video again if you have any conceptual doubts. Feel free to comment, and if you need more such videos, let me know. Thank you.